What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be checking out the McFarlane Toys movie Maniacs Series 1, Freddy Krueger. Yes, a bit of a revisit as we're going back and having a look at this figure once again. The figure stands, something I didn't mention in the previous video, at approximately 7 inches in height. Some displaying options. Freddy Krueger comes with the classic movie Maniacs display stand. This features the Nightmare on Elm Street poster on the inside, featuring if Nancy does not wake up screaming, she won't wake up at all. Nice looking poster, love it back then, still love it today. And inside, it's encapsulated inside this skeletal frame, which was one of the classic traits of the movie Maniacs line. Unfortunately though, as the series progressed, this cool outer framed display stand shrunk in size almost to the point where it was about, well, it was a very small stand and the end of it. But in its original state, it actually looks quite cool. Got some glue points on the back there to adhere the poster, which is just, unfortunately, cardboard, attaching it to the back base there. Some nice detail work here. Many skulls. That's something that McFarlane Toys quite likes. It's his skulls and scantily clad women. But again, like some nice skull work there, sculpted in and painted primarily in just a cream color. And then they've got like little brown, kind of dark brown accent areas there, such as the skull eye sockets, the nose, the mouth. Here's the underside of it, very hollow. Looks like a chasm that somebody could fall deep into. And again, there's the front with movie Maniac logo on the front there. Some more skulls. And again, encapsulating the poster. Looks good. Always loved these, and it definitely shows nice when you have the figures on display with their corresponding posters behind. Next, we have ourselves the little marionette Freddy, which would make his appearance in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. It's not so much Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, although, you know, some would use the argument that because he comes included with this, he's not quite really Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street 1, even though the poster would dictate that. So he's kind of just like a Mod Podge sort of thrown together Freddy Krueger. But he comes with a little marionette version of himself. Looks okay. It's sculpted in with the little blades on his claw, and unfortunately he doesn't really have proper means to stand. He does have posability, nothing really in his head, although he does have arm swivel. Much like the Freddy, and much like really all of these figures, paint will vary drastically from one to another. My original Freddy, which I don't even know what happened to him, had much paler sort of paint application here on this smaller marionette Freddy, and equally so on Freddy was a little paler as well. And basically, as you pick these up, you might as well just be blindfolded, because sometimes the paint application is so drastically different from one another, as we will discuss when we look at Freddy. So you got your little marionette. Doesn't stand, fortunately, so I just have him propped up against Freddy's leg. That's good enough for me. Maybe I'll just prop him up next to the display stand. At least he'll stay in place as we have a look at the larger figure, Freddy Krueger. Anybody who has watched this channel for a long period of time will probably know the story behind why this guy is so significantly important for me. And that is because this was the first figure, I'm just going to move kind of everything out of the way here. He was the first figure that I picked up when I got back into collecting. I distinctly remember going to, I think, Zeller's at the time, which I don't even think Zeller's is around anymore. And they had one Freddy Krueger there. On the peg. I picked him up, took him home, and after that I picked up the Jason. I remember combing stores and comic book stores alike to try to find a Leatherface, and I ended up finding both Leatherface and a bloodied Leatherface. That was the real hard one to find. But this was the guy that started it all for my collecting, and ultimately I guess to some extent, he is also responsible for creating this YouTube channel, even though he didn't really go in and make up the name, record the videos, get that all set up, comment, and reply to comments in the video section. He is ultimately the figure that got me back into collecting, this guy right here. Although it wasn't this particular figure, but it was the movie Maniacs Series 1 Freddy. So in a state such as looking at this guy right now, I perhaps may look at him with slight rose-colored glasses because he has some significance to me. Others may look at this guy and think, wow, he looks absolutely nothing like Freddy, and I would agree with you on that. He's got some nice detail work to him, but let's start with the face, which doesn't look at all remotely close to Freddy. It does slightly, but it doesn't nearly enough to, I think, look enough like Freddy. Movie Maniacs also released a secondary Freddy, which I think looks much better and closer to the movie Freddy than this one right here. But this is what I was talking about with the paint application. I have owned probably, I think, 3 Freddys, 3 of these over the course of my collecting days. I know the first one I sold, and it was still sealed. The second one I picked up and did a review of him. I don't know if I lost him. I don't know what happened to him. But this one right here is the darkest Freddy of all the Freddys I've owned. And as I mentioned, this is where the figures will vary drastically from one another. It almost seems like the coloring will just drop. One will be completely light, one will be completely dark. This one seems excessively colored in like darker reds or even like black wash paint that's been added to the torso. He's a much dingier, darker looking Freddy than what the other previous Freddys that I've had. And yet you may then go to a store or something, pick up another one of these, and he'll be completely different. He'll still have the stripes, yes, in his sweater, and the colorings will be very similar, but one may be drastically darker than the other. So again, let's have a look at some other little aspects of Freddy. Here we've got the blood all over Freddy's glove and the blades themselves. Unfortunately, this one blade is slightly warped. I was going to say extremely warped. That would be exaggerating. Slightly warped, and you got the blood all over the blades, blood all over the hands and the arms. It looks a little bit better for blood on the blades than it does on the arms, where on the arms it comes across more looking like paint than it does anything else. As discussed, he does have the red and green stripes, but they are awfully almost faded, or they lose a little bit of something. They're a little bit better on the back actually than on the front. On the front though, it almost looks like he's got rain. Somebody's drawn and painted rain over top of his vest or on top of his sweater here. It's very dark, very, very dark. The rips on the sleeves are a nice touch. Down below, he has the rips on the bottom of his sweater, but because he's got the cut in the waist where it is, it doesn't actually look like ripped sweater as much as it looks like just like spaghetti squash, or just looks like paint that has gooped all over his lower torso. His pants have almost like this cross hatching to it, where this was back in the day where sculptors really had more luxury to sculpt their figures, but ultimately they kind of just, it was a free-for-all really what they wanted to do. So these little cross hatchings are a nice touch, but in no way does it actually look like Freddy's pants. He's got some mud all over his feet, all over up to the top areas of his knees. That's some extra mud and stuff caked on there. Yeah, it's a hard Freddy to enjoy. Unless you grew up with a figure or have nostalgic attachment to this particular figure, you may ultimately just pass on him altogether because he doesn't look anything really like Freddy. He has the aspects of Freddy. He's kind of like a Freddy you would expect to find in a first person, or not first person, but like a fighter game. Like we did get a Freddy in a Mortal Kombat game. This is kind of like one of those Freddys. It doesn't look nearly enough like Freddy, but it gets the point across that it does have, well, you could look at it and know it's Freddy, even though it doesn't really look like him at all. And he's very narrow too. Like his sweater doesn't have any sort of bagginess to him. He's just, you know, again, someone's interpretation of what they think the definitive Freddy would have been. Anyways, let's look at his articulation, starting first with his head. He doesn't have, by the way, a removable fedora, so if you think you can remove it, you'd be incorrect, actually, by that. His arms rotate all the way around. Try not to hit the hat in the process. The arms rotate all the way around. There we go. And he's got a swivel in the hand, and he's got a swivel in the bicep. This arm, not quite there. He only has the swivel on this arm and the hand, which I think he had the hand articulation. It's a little stiff, so maybe he actually does not. Nothing here, nothing happening in the elbow portion, even though this hand does have the swivel. Oh, McFarlane, I love you so. A swivel in the waist, and appearing to have absolutely nothing in the feet. Speaking of feet, by the way, he does have peg holes on the undersides of his feet. Doesn't come with a display stand, but Freddy stands perfectly fine. Yes, I admit this is not the perfect Freddy. By comparing him to maybe the other Freddys, he would probably be near the bottom of the list, unless maybe you factor in some knockoffs here and there. Does it look like Freddy? No. Is it a good Freddy? Maybe not. But it's still Freddy that really defined horror figures as a whole. The McFarlane movie Maniacs really started the ball rolling for horror-related figures. So one has to kind of look at this as one would look at maybe somebody of older age. You know, they have a story to tell, and that is one thing I really want to bring to these particular reviews, is the fact that they have some story to tell. Maybe a younger collector that grows up now collecting the NECA stuff maybe pass on this guy altogether, because as they would say, man, he looks nothing like Freddy, he looks stupid. Well, you know what, maybe he does a little bit, but he's the Freddy that got me started back into collecting, and all the more reason why I wanted to look at this guy again with a fresh set of eyes. And I know those eyes are slightly rose-colored, the rose-colored glasses, I should say, that I'm wearing. I do favor this figure only, I think, because of the fact that he got me into collecting. Otherwise, I think I probably would not go back and pick up this figure again. I'd be much happier just to display a NECA Ultimate Freddy, for example, on my display shelf. But I went back and picked this guy up again because despite the fact he is a little on the rough side, despite the fact he doesn't look like Freddy, and despite the fact he is bathed in black paint, I still love you, Freddy. I still love you, original Freddy Krueger, the one that started my collection. Today we were going back and revisiting the McFarlane toys. This was Movie Maniacs Series 1, and this was A Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy Krueger. If you guys haven't had a chance yet to hit that little subscribe button down below, what are you waiting for? A really crude looking Freddy to haunt you in your nightmares? I don't think he would really run anyways, because he doesn't have articulation in legs. But hit that little subscribe button down below. You'll never miss a beat when it comes to future videos. And of course, speaking of future videos, we got many more videos coming onto this channel. If you haven't had a chance maybe to watch some of the older content, I would maybe entertain the idea of going to my homepage, going to the section where it says videos, and scroll down and see if there's any videos that you may have missed. This guy is somewhat guilty. Okay, I'm very guilty of putting a lot of content on my channel, sometimes to an astronomical amount, sometimes even 10 plus videos a week. So there's very good possibility that you guys may have missed out on a video. So all the more reason to go check out my homepage, scroll down the video section. If there's something that you may have missed, feel free to check it out. And I always like reading new comments in those older videos. Thanks again for watching, guys. See you next time.